Great. My name is Don Murphy. I'm an architect practicing in Amsterdam. I work from anything from a private house to large psychiatric hospitals, and my most famous work probably is, ironically, a temporary bicycle shed in front of Central Station in Amsterdam. I have never lived in a news town. My city that I was born in is almost 1,000 years old. I lived in London, which is almost 1,000 years old, and I lived in Amsterdam, which is almost 1,000 years old. Cork is the second largest city in the Republic of Ireland. It's situated on the River Lee. It is the commercial centre of the region. And actually, in fact, I've never been proud of Cork. I'm not proud to say I'm from Cork. I'm not proud of Cork. I find nobody really lives in the centre, or didn't. They're starting to live in the centre, but nobody really lived in the centre. It has a university, and but it seems to me to be a kind of urban mess. It seems to be a mess of a city. It doesn't really have any real beauty. I'm very often asked by Dutch people or friends or colleagues from around the world. They say to me, "Oh, I'm going to Cork. What's it like? And can you?" I say, "Well, the cities are not very attractive in Ireland, but the landscape is very interesting. And in the region of Cork, we do have a lot of very good food. Actually, it's a kind of gourmet centre for Ireland." The thing is, when it's funny actually, because when I was young, or when I lived in Cork, and we went away on holiday, when we arrived back, you always had this feeling of like, oh, we're back here, you know, we're back in Cork, it's grey, it's gloomy, we have to get on with life somehow. And that was somehow when my sisters, when they travelled away, they used to come back and they would have this, what they would call the holiday blues. For the first 2 weeks they would be depressed. I remember when my parents travelled around the world, going to Las Vegas and Los Angeles, Sydney, Australia. When they came back, I remember my mother once having a kind of 4-week depression because she had come home. Now, funnily enough, I've travelled a lot with Dutch people. And I've travelled extensively on excursions with clients and with schools and universities. And every time the KLM plane touches down at Schiphol, all the Dutch start to smile and say, "Yeah, it's great to be back in Holland. You know, it's a great country." They love it. They really loved it. Now, of course, in Ireland, I think the Irish are starting to be proud of Ireland. They're starting to love Ireland because of its prosperity. But do they really? And the Cork people are very proud of their city. I think cities are something that you fall in love with at first sight, or they're cities that grow on you. 1, 2nd, 3, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th visit. Then you start to like it. That was my feeling with Almere. I've been here a lot now, and I'm starting to like Almere. But I've been here quite a lot. Whereas with Amsterdam, it was love at first sight. I fell immediately in love with Amsterdam in 1988 as a student on an excursion, and 2 or 3 years later I came back to do a master's here. And of course, I've had my 7-year itch. And of course, after 15 to 17 years, you take it for granted. Now I take Amsterdam for granted. It's like, you say, what is it like? Yeah, it's fine. Recently, I was in a jury. It's called the Souderkerk. It's the prize given to the best housing project built in the year between 2006 and 2007. Every year is the prize given. And we travelled right across the city, visiting all of these different locations, all these different projects. And I was amazed that it wasn't always organised, but sometimes we had to knock on the doors and enter the apartment to see how good the apartment was from inside. And the first project shit, what's happening here? We came across, is everything alright, Barry? No. We came across, the first project we came across was a large project, and there was a French woman living there in her mid-50s, deeply religious, because I could see all these photographs of the Pope around. And she tried very hard to speak to us in Dutch, and she was very welcoming. The next project, it was a family from Morocco. The next project, a senior couple from Morocco with their son. The next project, in this project, the guy opened the door with no trousers on, no underwear on, completely naked, and said, "Do you want to come in? Okay, come and see my house." And we were like, "Could you put your trousers on?" And then we came in, and then we noticed a kind of hand under a bed in the living room, and there was a naked woman there also. And then we moved to Amsterdam Southeast, and there was a Suriname woman. It was a beautiful sheepskin, really kind of comfortable house. And then we moved across to the Pipe, where we saw some gentrification with some yuppies living there, some gay yuppies with this incredible penthouse with a kind of in-low cast walk-in closet that looked like the store of Louis Vuitton. And then across to an expat living in the Dockland areas of Amsterdam. And I came back home and I was like saying, my God, this city is so rich with the different kinds of people, all being civil to each other, open, trying to get on in this city. I said, it was like the opposite to the movie Crash. Everybody was trying their best. So I spoke to my 12-year-old son, and my 12-year-old son said, I was so impressed. He said, Don, did you know that there are more different nationalities living in Amsterdam than any other city in the world? More than New York, more than London. And of course, I thought that must be it. But in Almere there are also lots of different nationalities. But what the difference here, and what's the difference with Amsterdam, is there is this density. There's this, the inner, the Hartenpoort, there's this density. I'm losing the track. This is my street. I live on the street, and what the thing is, I have neighbours. I have neighbours on both sides of me. I have them above me and I have behind them. When you have neighbours, you have to be civil. You have to get on with them, and that's what you have to behave. It's completely different from living in a suburb where you get into your car, you go into your house, and you leave. And then what happens is that the people go on the street and they behave in a certain way on the street. They engage in what's civil activity. And no, I'm not. But what is interesting also is, for instance, that people move through the city then in bikes. This is the last extension to Amsterdam. It's called IJburg. It's a new town. And here again, there's kind of density, there's diversity. But what they've also added is culture. We cannot always instantly create culture, but this is a kind of cult culture. It's the culture of the beach. But by doing this, they've given the IJburg a certain kind of cult aspect to it. So my plea is, or my belief is that it's to do with diversity, density, which creates a kind of civilness, and through that we have culture. And that's what makes a kind of city interesting.